All right, I'll be right back.
Hey, guys.
Hi there.
How are you?
Ready? Anthony, you ready?
Yeah, 7:30, and we can get started if you like. And all council members are here.
Call this council meeting of October 27th, 2020 to order at 7:31 p.m. Will everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the city clerk please read the Open Publics Meeting Act?
Okay. Notice is a little bit different this time. Had to update it based on the new rules. Okay. This meeting is called pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Law. Notice of this meeting was included in a notice sent to the record in the Star Ledger and advertised in said newspapers on January 17, 2020, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as the required notices under the statute. A copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Please take notice that in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6 at SEEK, and Local Finance Notice 2020-21, new emergency regulations, remote public meetings held during a declared emergency, issued by the Local Finance Board on September 24th, 2020, and NJSA 5:39-1, Emergency Remote Meeting Protocol for Local Public Bodies, establishing standard protocols. The City Council of the City of Englewood adopted Resolution Number 203-10-13-20, authorizing the remainder of the City of Englewood schedule of council meetings for 2020 to be held remotely via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so by clicking on the link below at 7:30 p.m. The link is on our website, or by dialing 929-205-6099. The meeting ID for this meeting is 892-8970-5500, and the passcode is 921660. Individuals calling into this number will be able to fully participate in the meeting, including providing public comment. Public comments may be submitted by 3 p.m. on the date of the meeting, either through written letter or email to meeting@cityofenglewood.org. All written comments shall be read during the public forum portion of the meeting and shall be subject to the same time limitations for public speaking. Duplicative comments shall be noted for the record and summarized. The agenda for the meeting can be found on the city's website at www.cityofenglewood.org. A separate meeting will be used if closed session is required. Proper notice having been given, the municipal clerk is directed to include the statement in the minutes of this meeting.
Will the city clerk please do the roll call?
Councilman Cohen? Lost Councilman Cohen? Okay, he's raising his hand. Councilwoman Glenn?
Here.
Councilman Hamer?
Here.
Councilwoman Rosenberg?
Here.
Council President Cobb?
Here.
Mayor Wells is attempting to call me. I'm assuming he's having a hard time logging on, so I will try and get in touch with him as soon as this is, we do finish this. City Attorney Bill Bailey is also present, and Interim City Manager Jewel Thompson Shin.
Okay, we have a point of order. We need, did somebody say something? We need to add a document that I received from this interim city manager, best practices for 2020 inventory. We need to add that to the agenda. So I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
I'll second it. Any questions about this? No?
Could we get a little bit of description from either the city manager or CFO relative to this notice?
Sure. Joel, could you elaborate on this, please?
Joel, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Thank
There
you.
you go. There you go.
The CFO is in attendance to give an explanation regarding the best practices survey. Michael?
Just not to interrupt, but you should probably vote on whether to add it to the agenda first.
Okay.
I know there are some time constraints for this to be submitted to the state, and I think it's before our next meeting, which is why it's important that it be added, and then Michael can elaborate on the details.
Okay. So we can, well, there was a motion and a second on the floor, so we could roll call and then we can speak to it, right, Mr. Bailey? Is that what you're advising us to do? Okay. All right. So roll call. Yancy, please.
Okay, Councilman Cohen?
Yep.
Councilwoman Glenn? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Hamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosenberg? Yes. Council President Cobb?
Yes. So, Mr. Kaufman, could you elaborate on this document and why we have to submit it before our next council meeting?
Sure. The state yearly gives out you want to know what the best practice is or why we have to do it now?
Just give an overview of what this document is
Okay.
and when we have to submit it. I think that'll be sufficient.
Okay. The best practice is once a year, the state gives a list of questions that change yearly that the CFO has to fill out in order for us to get 100% of the final payment of state aid. This year, there are 29 questions, and worth 24.5 points. And to get 100%, there has to be 16 points or greater. This year, out of the 24.5 points, we received 24 points. So we were way over the 16 required. The only question we didn't get was for a half a point, was worth a half a point, was for doing a cash analysis every month. When I talked to the auditor, he said that's excessive. Every other month is good enough. So 24 to 24.5 points is a very good score. And everything else, it's due November 4th. So I already submitted it to the state. The chief administrative officer and the city clerk have to certify. Also, they're going to do that once tomorrow after the council meeting. And the council has to be notified. That's what the clerk certifies, that the council was notified about the results of the best practices inventory.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Kaufman?
Council President, it's not a question, it's more of a comment. Relative to the report that needs to be filed with the state, are we going to get a copy of that, or at least a summary of the, I'd certainly like to hear about the topics that are covered in the notice, just where we stand on all of those, in particular cybersecurity.
Mr. Cobb, may I?
Yes, please.
The entire checklist and the finance notice was sent out late this afternoon to everybody. If you haven't received it, please let me know and I'll resend it.
Councilman Hamer, are you finished, or you got some more questions?
Nope, I'm finished.
So I would recommend that next year when we do this exercise, that we have it at our workshop meeting before we have to submit it, so we have an opportunity to go over all the questions instead of getting the questions the same day that we're going to vote on this thing to move it. I think it's just a little bit more helpful, and it allows everybody to ask questions that they may have. Mr. Kaufman, can you make a note of that?
Yes.
And I have a question. Some of these are 1 point, and some of them are half a point. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And I noticed that some of them some of the questions were around COVID.
Unscored. I think the COVID were the unscored survey questions.
And why is that? Because it's a one-time event, if that's what they believe?
Or the state just wants information. There's questions about planning and economic development, shared services. There's other questions that I don't know the reasoning behind what the state asks and why they ask it, but they ask like 30 questions that are not scored. So I don't know the reasoning behind the state, what they decide to ask that's scored and what's not scored. Every year they just change the questions.
Okay. All right.
And I
Yes.
I would indicate that the unscored survey questions, I believe the state is essentially taking advantage of the fact that they have a requirement that applies to all 566 municipalities. And it's an opportunity for them to basically get a reading on other issues. So some of the questions they ask are about zoning, some questions they ask are about shared services. And I believe that's reflected in things that the state decides requires more assistance or more support. So for instance, about 2 weeks ago, the state gave a very good webinar on shared services. So if they have responses from the entire state, they can get a clearer idea of how things are trending and how many communities are undertaking certain activities. So it's a data gathering exercise for them.
Right. Yeah. I looked at it and I actually have it up here. And there was an interesting one, question 37 around liquor licenses. You know, but these all unscored surveys, yeah, you can see it as shared services. And I guess they're trying to make us think about shared services with a lot of it with the Board of Education or other municipalities.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And I guess it's unfair to ask anybody if they have any other questions, because if they just got it and didn't have an opportunity to read it. But as I said, for next year, we should have this in our workshop session before we have to submit it. So the council members will have an opportunity to review it, talk to it, and get comfortable with this document. I think that's
So noted. Yes.
That's a fair ask on that part. All right, as we move along, Mr. Bailey, as you provide me guidance as we were talking about making some rearrangements to the agenda.
Yes, Council President, as you had discussed with me as well as Ms. Thompson-Chin about given recent events, the chief is present via Zoom to make some comment, but you had also mentioned possibly, given the amount of public interest, changing the order of the agenda. So unless anyone had an objection, you could move the you could have the chief speak now if you like, and then have the general public comment immediately thereafter. If you don't want to, you want to try and get to that first and try and his best to accommodate the public.
Yeah, I would like to do it in that order, and then we will conduct all the rest of the council business after that. If the chief is available, okay. I thought I saw him. Let him make a statement. He's not here to answer. He's not answering any questions because these are ongoing investigations, but he's going to make a statement to the public, and then I'm going to open the floor for public comment on that, and then we will move. And after we finish the public comment, we will move on to the rest of the agenda, the meeting agenda.
Just one point, Council President.
Sure.
So the public is clear, that will be the public comment. So
yeah, this will be the public comment for tonight. That's
right,
what you're saying.
Right.
Exactly.
I don't want to confuse anyone if there'd be another one later.
So, Bill, in fairness to then, any resolutions that we have on tonight, they should have the opportunity to comment on those as well, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you can comment on the comments regarding the resolutions that are on here, as well as you can have comments on the statement that the chief is going to make, because he's just making a statement because of these activities are still in the investigative stages. His comments will be limited. His statement will be limited to that because these actions are current. So, Chief Suffering, welcome tonight, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As most of you are aware of, we had a rash of some violent crimes that have occurred over the last several days. We had a shooting incident down in the Parkview area that took place. There was an individual who was injured as a result of the shooting that is now currently in the hospital. Our offices currently are investigating the incident in conjunction with the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office who was involved. We are following up all investigative leads. We are also putting some protective security measures in place to try and beef up the patrol presence in and about that area. The following evening, we had a shooting also in the same similar location. To wit, we had an individual who was not present upon police arrival, but we were subsequently notified by a hospital that they had a victim of a gunshot wound there. We responded, determined the victim was indeed shot in our town. And again, we have our detectives that are working very diligently on following up on the investigation to identify the individuals so we can bring them into the custody. Additionally, we had on Saturday a Saving Humanities March that was taking place. As the march was beginning, there was an altercation that was observed on William Street, just off of Englewood Avenue. Several of the march participants went over to intervene and break up the altercation between the young ladies who were involved. In the same process, there were police arriving on scene of the initial call for a fight, at which time, excuse me, there were some individuals that had a confrontation with law enforcement officers, which subsequently resulted in the arrest of 4 individuals. At the current time, those parties had been charged and released from custody. We do have an active internal affairs investigation that is proceeding, and I was just notified shortly that the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office will be interceding in the internal investigation and will be working to identify if there were any violations of policy, rule, regulation, or law.
Chief, that's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As always, we got 2 minutes, your name, your address, and also I want to remind everyone, as you get on here, the decorum of these meetings is of such that we're going to be respectful in our tone. Any type of profanity and things of that kind of conversation, you will be muted from your 2 minutes. I believe that everybody who comes to the mic and wants to speak via Zoom has the ability to communicate effectively. I have that much confidence in everybody who attends these meetings. So let's demonstrate that. And also it's an easier way for us to try to accomplish things, try to hear things in the right perspective, and that we can get to some resolution to the comments or concerns that you are making. So you have to raise your hand. You can walk them through the instructions so they can participate on this end. And let me just remind you, anything that's on the resolutions, as well as if you want to make comment to what Chief Suffering has just stated to us. Thank you.
All right, a reminder to the public that at the bottom of your screen, there's a more button on that. It's a hand feature to raise your hand. Just click on that and then we'll see that your hand is raised and you will be in queue. Once your name is called, you will be asked to unmute so that you can be heard. First on is Rick.
Yes.
Okay, Ricky, go ahead.
Mr. Wilby, let's go. Your flow.
Yeah, Ricardo Wilby, Englewood, New Jersey. First and foremost, I mean, there was something very important that's transpired last week that the chief left out, and that was the passing of my family member, Winter Renee, who passed away and was recovered in the lake, okay, by some very fine members of the Englewood Police Department that responded immediately to her apartment upon arriving there. They realized that her last known location was at the lake. They responded down to the lake. Myself, my sister, a few of her family members were there. Upon seeing her body in the water, Sergeant Carnahan immediately took off his uniform and jumped in the water and did what he had to do to recover her body, pulled her out, and subsequently she was dead, of course. But I want to take my hat off to the Englewood Police Department and to the actions, the selfless actions of these police officers who, when the time came to perform unselfishly, they did so. And I also want to thank Councilwoman Shaw Rosenberg, who called me the day of the incident and exemplified true leadership. And that's what's lacking in Englewood, true leadership, bipartisan true leadership that isn't worried about, any axe to grind or any old scores to settle. Thank you, Shaw Rosenberg. Also, thank you, Charles Cobb, who knows the family personally. From what I understand, he grew up with Bo Littlejohn. He reached out over the weekend as well, expressed his condolences. Thank you to the chief, who also knows the family. Thank you to all the officers that were there, Chapman, Rose, Carnahan, Christensen, Carlos, and everybody that helped in that. There's a lot of issues going on here in Englewood, and I think we really need to look at how we as a community are going to move forward and how we are going to stop the noise, the disruptive noise that has robbed us of progress. All right? So thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Willoughby, and condolences again to your family. Yancy, next person, please.
Next is Scott Jenkins. Scott, unmute yourself, please.
Hi, good evening, everybody. First and foremost, I would like to say that I commend the mayor. Not only was he there, but he was there in the police department, there to support the protesters, there to keep peace with the police. He followed up with community leaders from the Black community during the weekend. Cheryl Rosenberg also followed up with the Black community leaders, and we want to thank you very much. I just want to say to the other council people, your silence means a lot. Everybody's watching. You saw what happened. You should have made a statement by now. Chief, my heart goes out to you. You need more men. You need more diversity. You need more respect. And you need more support from the leadership up above. That means the city manager and everybody else. My condolences to Rick's family and the family of Mr. Littlejohn, the Watts family, and everybody else that suffered the loss of Winter Renee. Have a good night.
Yancy, next.
No one else has their hand raised. Mr. Cobb, maybe you just reiterate that this is the only public hearing for tonight?
Yes, this is the only public hearing tonight. As we conduct council business, we wanted to move it to the front so people could have an opportunity to speak to the statements that the chief made as well as the agenda items.
Bill is raising.
Yes.
Bill. Councilman Cobb, but I just want to be clear, there will be a public hearing on the ordinance that's on.
Right.
For tonight,
okay.
But
this is the public
no
session.
more public comment section.
No more public comment, right. There will be a public hearing, right.
Diane Jensen. Diane, unmute yourself, please.
Hi, Diane Jansen, 589 Ridgeland Terrace. First, I wanted to give my condolences to Rick Wilby and his family. I had no idea that was his cousin, and I'm sorry, Rick. And I'd also I'm really sorry, Rick. And I'd also like to say there was a sense of comfort to know that the mayor and Pastor Thompson were at the mall. And then to see the videos and to see the mayor was there to the end. It provided the residents a great sense of comfort. And I'd like to say thank you. I too wish we would have heard something from the council as a body in unison. Chief, you're in a tough place right now, and we're behind the police. We're not behind escalations. And the videos were very, very tough to watch. You know, we were taught in college, in our criminology courses, that the role of the police the main role is to keep the peace and order. And that requires a lot of communication. And, but we also understand the police perspective. With 2 recent shootings, they might have been, I don't know what word to use, but they might have acted too fast as a result of things that had transpired in the week. But we definitely need training, we need police, and we need community policing. Thank you. And a review board.
Thank you. Okay. Nancy, anybody else?
Yes. Jack Silberman? Jack? Where's Jack? We lost Jack. Oh, here we go. Jack? You have to unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Now it came up and said unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I had a request for Franz or the city, but from the Environmental Commission. We'd like to get a copy of the Johnson Avenue refurbishment project. In particular, we're concerned about what kind of trees are going to be kept and lost, etc. I left a message 2 weeks or so for you, Franz, but I hadn't gotten a call back. So anyway, I was requesting if we could get that. You know, if you can send it to me, that would be great, or email anything so I could have it for the next meeting, for the next EEC meeting. Is that okay? Is that a problem? Is that okay?
Franz, you're on mute. Go ahead.
Jack, we can definitely discuss that. The plans are getting finalized, and that project is probably going to go out for advertisement fairly soon. But that's something we can definitely discuss.
Well, even though you're having, I'm not. I mean, whatever you've done, you're done. We would like to put our 2 cents into it. If it can't be anything changed, maybe it can't be. But I think the Environmental Commission, the only thing we are charged with is open space. We'd like to be able to take a look and see what's been done, or to try to save as many trees as possible.
Yep, that is something we can definitely discuss, Jack.
You can only discuss it with me. You can't give me the plans.
The plans are being finalized right now.
All right, but I don't have to have the final plans. Just giving me whatever you up to now that's before that goes out for bid, whether it has gone out or before. I'd like to be able to get that for the EEC. And we've asked for that, so I'm formally asking for it. Is that going to be a problem to get that?
Jack, we can discuss the trees and what can go on the plans. That's something that I'm willing to discuss with you and the Environmental Commission.
Okay. Do you want to come to our meeting, the next meeting, potentially, and meet or at the next meeting?
Jack, we'll talk offline.
Okay. Thank you. Yancy, next.
No one else has their hand raised.
Okay.
I do. Oh, I'm sorry, Margaret. Oh, someone started to, and then they went away.
Okay.
I do have, because of the new rulings, an email from someone.
Okay. Read that, please.
I'm going to give myself the 2-minute timing. I was told they would get the 2 minutes as everybody else.
Right.
This is from Christina Eloy. It says, to whom it may concern, I intend to speak at the city council meeting this evening. I would like to petition the council to make the section of the road across the street from the front of my driveway a no parking zone. Initially, I was informed by a homeowner that 2 realtors that the space in front of the driveway belongs to the homeowner. Moreover, it's a common courtesy for neighbors not to park in front of or on the opposite side of the street that is in front of the driveway. Unfortunately, I am not afforded this common courtesy. Therefore, it's better to have this space a no parking zone. Due to work and personal reasons, I frequently need to leave my residence at short notice. However, often I am restricted from entering and or exiting my driveway because a vehicle is parked across the street, no close enough to the curb, which is a brick wall. I often have to wait until the owner of the vehicle comes to move it, which prevents me from leaving instantaneously. Oftentimes I have been late to and or missed important meetings because of vehicles blocking my driveway. Also going uphill, there is a gutter storm drain that I have to drive over when a vehicle and or vehicles are blocking the driveway. The rough and uneven terrain around the gutter, which is similar to a ditch, damages my car. I have attached pictures of the street in several occasions when vehicles are blocking the driveway. Last but not least, when guests come over, it is very difficult for them to park in the driveway if a vehicle is parked across the street. Thank you for your review and consideration. And she has the pictures. I forwarded this email already to Ms. Thompson Chen. She did not provide an address though.
What I think what can happen here, Chief, you can, if you would like, you can respond to some of that stuff she's talking about, parking on the street. Mr. Bailey, you can as well, because the street is public access to everybody, right? Unfortunately, right?
Correct.
So,
And not being familiar with the exact location,
right.
It would be a little bit hard, but the option would be to have us take a look at it or send a request through the Traffic Advisory Committee.
Right.
They would be able to send somebody out to assess the situation and make a recommendation through the Traffic Advisory Committee.
Okay. So, Jewel, we have the liaison for the Traffic Advisory on, Cheryl, and Jewel, I guess y'all can kind of organize that and get back to the.
We have to have the address before we can do that.
Well, I think we can get the address.
Yeah, we did get the email. I will follow up with the submitter.
Okay, great. Perfect.
Yeah, so we can address that. Okay. Sounds good.
No one else has raised their hand in the interim.
Mr. Bailey, so I can, as you step me through this, I can close the public portion of the meeting?
Yes, sir.
And then we can go back and proceed to
The regular agenda.
our regular agenda, which the next thing is on here is we need a motion to approve previous meeting minutes for reorganization meeting January 2nd, 2020, regular meetings January 21st, 2020, February 18th, 2020, workshop meetings February 4th, 2020, workshop meeting March 3rd, 2020, and special meeting February 4th, 2020. I need a motion and a second to approve these meetings minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? No? Yancy, roll call, please.
Councilman Cohen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Glenn?
Yes.
Councilman Hamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosenberg?
Yes.
Council President Cobb?
I vote yes. I declare the motion carried. Oh, I got a little ahead of myself there. I declare the motion carried and the minutes duly approved. Next, we have bills and claims. Resolution 213 in the amount of $1,136,590.59. I need a motion to approve and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? I have a couple of questions if nobody else has any. On page 1 of 5, Mr. Kaufman, if you're still around, OpenGov 8,176. Could you explain to us what that is?
That's for the months from September 2020 through next year, September 2021.
So when are we going to get this? When are we going to get the view OpenGov to see what we're getting, what we're paying for?
Right now, there are issues with the the computer, the servers, and downloading stuff. And Asher could explain it a lot better than I could, but there's issues with safety and security and viruses. That's what's being worked on.
Okay. We've been working on this thing for about 2+ years. I'd like to see, if possible, a realistic date of implementation when we're going to have this thing up and running. I would hope before the end of December, or is that realistic?
I'll talk to Asher and ask him
Okay.
what he thinks, when he thinks it could be, because all our work with them is basically done.
Okay.
Now it's just the actual technical parts.
Okay. So ask Asher to give you an update or his opinion on it, and then somehow just you get it to Jewel and she'll get it to us. All right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. I have another question. On same page 1 of 5, it says accident repairs. We got 2 police cars, one for $7,655.55 and one for $3,694.71. What kind of accident did we have here?
You know what? It's perfect because the chief is on the call still.
Oh, okay.
When I looked, one was a 2007. The first one was a 2017 Ford Explorer. We replaced the bumper, the fender, the tailgate, the muffler. I don't know what the circumstances were, how the accident happened. But the second one was the 2015 Ford Explorer, the front bumper, the lower cover. That happened in 1/19/20. Maybe the chief knows exactly how the accidents happened, but it was for accidents. I don't know exactly how they happened.
And these repairs just took place. So are these dollars here for these 2 automobiles? They're covered by insurance, so insurance is going to pay for these things, or are we getting some kind of reimbursement?
Yes. When we charge it to the insurance line, it means that we're going to get reimbursed.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. I guess Mr. Volsi will answer the next 2 questions, and then I'll be finished. On page 4 or 5, Mr. Volsi, we have Mr. Maybe Bill Bailey can explain this as well. We have what is called County Open Space Trust for $139,190.11. Mr. Bailey, are you familiar with that?
I'm not sure the exact dollar amount. I'm not sure how it was arrived at, but I believe each municipality contributes to the county open space fund.
Okay.
And that might just be the calculation for.
Okay.
It's the taxes. It's the quarterly portion for the taxes. Yeah, that we pay.
So we pay this every quarter. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And my last question is, Mr. Volsi, we have installed chiller for $131,951. So what's the story with that?
Yeah, that is the cost of finalizing the project for the chiller installation. As you probably are all aware, the chiller is up, running. We have ice. So that was the cost for purchasing and installing the chiller, or part of the cost thing.
So do we have any future costs associated with this in terms of any more things that we have to do that are associated?
Yes, we still have minor things that need to be done, but for the most part, the bulk of the project has been completed, and I believe paid for. This is the second big payment towards it.
Okay. All right.
Council President,
yes,
may I interrupt for a second?
Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Volsi, would you just remind us what the total cost of that chiller was and an approximate on the installation cost?
The chiller itself was close to about $300,000 or so. We work with Davis Mechanical. They've actually been very good in reducing the cost as much as possible. What sort of drove the cost up, for lack of a better word, is a lot of surrounding work that needed to get done for the installation of the chiller, electrical work, pipe work, etc., that were additional. But for the most part, the whole chiller it's gonna be around $400,000 for everything from A to Z, from soup to nuts, to have it installed and working.
Thank you.
But the chiller itself was a $300,000 purchase.
Thank you.
$300,000 purchase? Okay, thanks. Okay, so if there are no other questions, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Cohen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Glenn?
Yes.
Councilman Hamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosenberg?
Yes.
Council President Cobb?
I vote yes. I declare the motion carried and the bills and claims duly approved. Next, we were supposed to have a presentation which was removed. The 2020 best practices inventory we already have discussed, so I believe we don't have to spend any time on that, not unless somebody wants to talk about that, because I think we covered that early on when we added it to the agenda. So we're going to move on to ordinances for public hearing and second reading. Ordinance 2006. Consideration will now be given to ordinance 2006. Will the city clerk please read the ordinance by title?
This is an ordinance of the City of Englewood, New Jersey, adopting a redevelopment plan for the property identified on the city's official tax map as Block 2602, lots 3.01, 3.02, and 3.03, commonly referred to as ERA South.
I declare that the public hearing on this ordinance is now open. If there are anyone who desires to be heard or to ask questions concerning this ordinance, he or she will be heard at this time. Please come forward, raise your hand, and give your name and your address for the record.
Just a reminder that this is just about the ordinance.
Just about the ordinance. Just this ordinance, yes.
Okay, first on is Taish Harris. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm sorry. I somehow raised my hand in error. Apologies.
That's okay.
Oh, so no questions?
No, sorry, Nancy. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Okay. So Rick.
Mr. Wilby?
Hello?
Yes, Rick, let's go.
Yeah, I mean, these redevelopment things, how long are we going to go with these redevelopment scams and these, these pilot programs and these giveaway at taxpayers' expense? When are we going to have a freeze on development and redevelopment and building and giving away and the community's not getting nothing in return? Like, what are they building now?
No. Mr.
How
Bailey,
many buildings are coming?
Mr. Bailey, could you answer that for Rick and tell him, I guess, the history behind this thing? Because this is something very old.
This goes back to pretty much 2009. A lawsuit was started in January of 2009 by the developer regarding the ERA South site. Went to the appellate division, back down to the state court, to the appellate division twice, actually. And a settlement was reached in July of 2019, which called for the construction, instead of a 200,000 square foot office building and a hotel, instead of those being built, 220 residential rental apartments, 15% of which would be set aside for affordable housing.
Hello?
And in addition,
And Mr. Bailey, I've heard enough right now. Now, the settlement is how much money? How much money did this guy have to pay the city? Hakimian, right?
Once everything is done, the project's built, the total amount paid by them will be $11,500,000.
Okay, and we're still going to deprive the city residents of a much needed community center. The money you guys raked in from Rock Creek, the money you guys raked in from this, the money you guys blew from the surplus, and still no community center. Okay, and all these developments and all of these giveaways, all this welfare program for wealthy developers. When does it stop? It's like an insult. And this 15% affordable housing set aside is complete madness. Okay, it doesn't amount up to anything. Okay, don't you see what's going on in Englewood? The surplus that we had of low income housing is gone. You guys completely redesigned the landscape of the city, okay, from the back door to the front door. It's ridiculous. It needs to stop. Okay, why can't you guys tell this guy he's got to put more than 15%? Why can't we get 100%? Why can't it be specifically designated for the Black community? Why can't he put a community center in there? Black folks can't go over to ERA South. Okay, it's ridiculous. This needs to stop. I'm sick and even tired of hearing the word redevelopment in Englewood, and we ain't got nothing to show for it. Except for traffic jams, less police officers, strain on services, higher taxes. Thank you, Democrats. That's it.
Okay. Yancy, you have anybody else?
No one else has raised their hand.
Okay.
Close the public hearing.
I'm closing the public hearing, and now we will have a motion. Now close the public hearing, and we're going to have a move of ordinance to be adopted. We need to have a motion and a second.
So moved.
Did I hear a second from somebody?
Yes, second.
Second. Okay, roll call, please, Yancy.
Councilman Cohen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Glenn?
Yes.
Councilman Hamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosenberg? Council President Cobb?
Yes. I declare the motion carried and the ordinance duly adopted, and that this ordinance be published once by title only in the record. We have no ordinances for introduction, first reading. We've gone through the public comment for ordinances, resolutions, 214 through 220. So we can adopt those by unanimous consent.
Move for adoption by unanimous consent.
Second.
Second. Roll call, yes.
I think we lost Councilman Cohen. Oh, he might be having technical difficulties. Councilwoman Glenn?
Yes.
Councilman Hamer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosenberg? I'm sorry, Councilwoman Rosenberg?
Yes.
Thank you. Council President Cobb?
Yes.
Oh, he texted me, he votes yes.
Oh,
Is that allowable? I just want to make sure that's allowed.
Under the circumstances, yes. The ordinance would carry anyway.
Okay, I declare the motion carried and the resolution is duly adopted. Items for discussion. Building heights. Mr. Bailey, do you want to talk to this?
Yes, we've had prior discussions regarding looking at the building heights, primarily in the downtown area. Currently, it's really District -1B. The building heights there, the maximum height is 60 feet as stepped back from Palisade Ave. Most of the building heights for the rest of Palisade Ave in that district and Englewood Ave are 45 and 46 feet. there was the residential areas, as is typical in most municipalities, meaning strictly residential areas, not mixed use, is 35 feet, which is customary. That's roughly, 2.5 stories. If the governing body wanted to amend the ordinance, that height limitation came up in 2014 after the planning board issued the master plan at that time, requesting that, and those ordinances were duly adopted. From a policy standpoint, the governing body would like to reduce those height limitations. It can do it. There's a process, however, it does have to get referred back to the planning board, as does any municipal land use ordinance relating to zoning. Also, it would have to really work in conjunction with the master plan, which a substantial reduction in the height could require reexamination of the plan to consider that. So I did speak also with Stan Slahetka of TNM briefly about it, who's been doing planning work on a case-by-case basis. He's willing to assist with that as well if it wants to be further consideration of this. But there's procedurally some hoops to jump through under the municipal land use law.
I think, Mr. Bailey, and my comment on that is, we can't have buildings the size of the building that we have at 40 Bennett Road. That height is just, it takes over the whole community. And it does apply to Canyon Effect down Englewood Avenue. And so, and it makes that wall off, and it makes the Fourth Ward seem like it's walled off because of all these big buildings down there on one side of Englewood Avenue. So bringing it back to its natural height, which was that before, when originally, they were saying four stories, and that's still pretty high. We need to seriously look at that, because no other place is that high other than Englewood Hospital, So, listen, everybody wants to have suburbia, and that's what they moved to Englewood for. So we need to explore this and see what we can do to make this work.
Just
Mr. Hamer?
Council President, yes.
Yep.
Only because we can't easily go back to 36th Street. I'm in total support of moving the height
to 45.
48.
Yeah. Right, because that was moved, that was what it was until they moved it to 60, at the master plan. So going back to 48, and that's still high, but, that's a whole different story there, so.
Mr. Gott,
Yes.
so with all respect, it takes experts, engineers, land use specialists, and historians to kind of guide us in a post-Amazon and now a post-COVID world, what kind of heights we should have in our community. I don't know why the planning board amended the master plan, the height that it is, and whatever change the governing body makes, I suppose people who would like to be accepted from it can go before the different boards for variances. But I would appreciate if the council itself would draw on experts, maybe even independent of the planning board experts, so we get more hands on deck. The last project that was approved for the Mitchell-Simon project, it was clear testimony that there is no canyon effect. I didn't sit on the planning board or appointed when the one on Bennett Road got approved. And to your credit, Charles, I appreciate that you voted against it because there was no affordable housing component. And the Mitchell-Simon one, it was, and the master plan actually stated in its terms that if this block ever came up, it should be used for this sort of building at these heights and everything. So master plans are really, and I hate the word master plan, I know it's going to be changed, but these plans are really drawn by experts like David Marin and engineers and architects that give it a lot of thought and have a lot of history. You only have to look at the 1800s to see that Palisade Avenue had 4 levels, much higher than what was envisioned. And our expertise and our sense of propriety has to really take in the science of this also. So I know Bill, the city attorney, I saw your email that, you know, you can't just do this without the consent or the ascension of other boards. But I understand what you're trying to achieve. I also don't want to put a chilling effect on people being able to build properly and help us get out of the financial mix that we're going to be in the next generation here. And your personal preference and Mr. Hamer's and all of that really has to take in all of these experts. And I think it would be worthy of the council getting its own experts if it doesn't trust or want the expertise of the city planning board ones. Or we can add to the content of what's going on. I don't want a canyon effect. And truth be told, you can govern against that by making exceptions in certain ordinances. But if developers will not invest in our city because it's an uphill fight and they have to go beyond a certain thing, or certain buildings cannot be built to make a profit for them and a profit for the city, then we're shooting ourselves in the feet.
Oh, Mayor, we did Stan, how do you say his last name, Bill?
Slahetka.
Slahetka is a professional and one of the, I guess, foremost experts in land use in the state of New Jersey. So we did seek his counsel on this, number one. Number two, we'd never balanced the budget on development, and our people that live in that area or where we build are more important to me than the developers will ever be, because people where all this development is taking place happens to be majority of it, 95% in the fourth ward or close to the fourth ward. And the people who live in the fourth ward deserve to have the suburbia feel, because that's what they bought into Englewood. We're not going to just say you could have suburbia feel in Englewood in one side of Englewood. So, you know, we have to take what's best for the residents here as well, and allow them to do that. Because to be honest with you, what balances the budget and what makes us successful with our budget is how we control the spending of the budget and how we manage it. So, you know, so that's what we have to talk to. But I don't care about this. I'm not looking at it from a development point of view. I'm looking at it from the residents' point of view. They are our priority, not the developers. You know, listen, and enough building has taken place in the fourth ward. I tell you, for a lifetime, and I think that you could appreciate that and would appreciate that if they were building in other parts of the city like that, then you would say, or, you know, because how do the people feel? And that's what we're doing here. We got to develop what makes sense development. That's what it is. But those buildings are too high. I mean, really, when you think about it, they're just too high. I mean, listen, I you know, we can agree to disagree, but I'll never change my mind with it. They're just that high. So I think that, but we are, to your point, we are getting guidance, which we will, because we're not the professionals. Yes, Yancy.
Can I speak, please?
You're muted.
Oh,
Nancy, you're muted.
you're muted, Yancy.
I'm sorry, I was just pointing out that Councilwoman Rosenberg had her hand raised.
Okay, well, okay. Councilwoman, you want to go?
Yeah, I would love to. I think that this is a really important conversation, and I don't think that we should limit it just to the height of buildings.
Well, setbacks too.
I think we need, I really think that we need a plan for the fourth ward that makes sense in terms of building height and also, you know, land coverage. There's flooding, there's drainage issues, there's you know, I think we need to put the city in a position of power so that we don't have to then go back and beg for the things we want, like more affordable housing or a traffic study. I think we need to put the city in a position where the default answer isn't always yes to developers, and it will give us the opportunity to engage with developers and make sure that what they have planned is something that we want. And if it's something that we want and we think it's going to be beneficial to the city, there's an easy process for them to get an exception to what is. But I think that right now the city is in a position where developers come in and seem to have not the restrictions that we want on them, because then we have to go back and sort of offer them, you know, a carrot and a stick to actually get what we want out of these buildings. So I think that we need to look at everything, including height. You know, appearance is important, and the overall effect on the neighborhood is important, and the engineering is important, and the infrastructure is important, and we should have the conversation as a whole, in my mind.
Okay. Sounds good. We will.
Okay.
Yep.
Can I say something?
Yep.
So a few things. One, you know, you had earlier that conversation, an expert or expert developers. I don't remember.
I can't hear you.
You know, I don't remember. Huh?
We're unable to hear you.
Can you hear me?
None.
It's not clear.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
I want to make sure you can hear me. No, you had referred to saying that we have had conversations with or dealt with an expert or experts on the planning side. I mean, I don't. You know, I for one have not been a part of any of those conversations or invited to be part of those conversations. I think that these are conversations that if we're talking to planners that we should all be a part of, and be able to ask questions and you know, I mean, these are serious issues that we should all be a part of those conversations. I just don't recall, you know, I mean, or such a planner should be invited to speak to the council at a public session.
Well, let me correct this real quick. Mr. Bailey has, not us directly. We haven't had those conversations. Mr. Bailey, you correct that. So
yeah, if I can, the discussions were really Franz, myself, and Stan Slahetka, and because it would involve appointments, I was actually going to bring this up in closed session, but I was going to recommend, and I think Franz agrees, and Stan is willing to take it on, engaging them more often. We kind of do it on an ad hoc basis now on specific projects, but have, whether it's Mr. Slahetka or someone else, just Mr. Slahetka is very familiar with the city, with the stuff he's done, really kind of to many of the points raised by the council tonight, get a bigger picture overview of the city and zoning and where we're weak and where we're strong and where we can improve. And we can even have Mr. Slahetka come to the next meeting, assuming he's available. But it was, the only discussions were Franz, myself, and Stan.
All right. I wasn't
they were really, yeah, they were preliminary because he hasn't technically been hired by the city. As a courtesy, he's been talking to me about this stuff, but he hasn't done like a deep dive into this, is what I'm saying.
I do believe that whatever decision we make or whatever we look to should be part of, you know, we should be going through all the different details and nuances and legalities. I mean, you know, it should be something that's all inclusive. I mean, you know, so, and you know, I'd want the community, all parts of the Englewood community, you know, to, you know, be able to have an opportunity or opportunities to, you know, make their voices heard and make their desires heard. And, you know, and I mean, this is a critical thing for the future of the city. I think we should make sure to have a deliberative process on this one. Yeah, I think we all understand that we don't want overdevelopment, but we all have to figure out where that balance is and see where all of our constituents in the city want that balance to be. I had one quick question from a legal side for you, Bill. You know, and I don't know if how many properties or how much it is, but you know, in the downtown area where we're talking about this, you know, when the master plan was passed, you know, whatever amount of years ago, what is it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I don't remember the exact amount of years ago, when it was put up to 60, I'm assuming that, you know, some people or some I mean, I could be totally wrong. I'm just asking the question, that some people bought properties, you know, around there saying that, you know, and whatever their financials are that were based on what the ordinances were at that time. If we go down in that, is there any litigation or anything that we need to consider about reducing their property values and doing something of that nature, where we have to talk about grandfather clauses or anything of that nature, or just overall? I mean, what's the legal end with that?
Yeah, if we want to discuss any potential for litigation, we'd have to do that in closed session.
Okay.
So I can have that conversation with you at that time. But there are instances where there's they call it a pre-existing non-conforming use. So that if it existed under the old ordinance, it gets to remain. But we can have a deeper discussion in closed session.
I guess part of what I'm just getting at is I think there's a lot of nuances and questions that we just need to be able to flesh out.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Hamer?
Yes, I just want to make sure that whenever we're having this discussion, this is a comprehensive discussion, and it's not limited to, the Fourth Ward and, just the business district. Englewood is only 5 square miles, and that's not going to change. So whatever standards we apply ought to be applicable across the board. And, that's not to say we need to develop every square inch, and I absolutely don't think we need to develop every square inch of Englewood. And there is a reason that it's green and it's a city of trees. So, it just has to be equal consideration.
Ms. Glenn? Ms. Glenn?
Yes, thank you. I concur that retaining the suburban quality of Englewood is just vital to all the residents who live here. I know in my ward, it's the feedback I get the most is like to keep that quality. I also agree that we should look at this holistically so that we don't act on one thing, but then realize we overlooked something. And I don't know what kind of time frame. I'm sure we'd like to act sooner rather than later, but I want to make sure that we're careful. And I think Councilwoman Rosenberg and Councilman Hamer alluded to that as well, that, let's get feedback kind of not just on the downtown, but across the board to make sure we protect our residents from overdevelopment.
Okay.
Council President,
Yes.
just one last thing. We do need to act with some measure of urgency, because if we are contemplating making these changes, there is nothing to prevent overzealous development, in a very expeditious way from taking place. So now that we started it and, opened up the conversation, I do think there is a measure of urgency. It needs to be complete, but it also needs to be a little bit expedient so that we don't miss out on, stopping, some things that could potentially occur.
Well, Mr. Bailey, I think I mentioned to you that we might have to add a meeting because we took something off the agenda that's important, or for that presentation.
Right.
So we can talk about that later, or we can talk about that now, or we can send it around when people are available.
And I can, if you wish, have Mr. Slahetka there.
Okay. Let's circle the wagons on that one. If there's no other questions on that topic, we'll move to the banner topic, Mr. Bailey, if you.
Yeah, with respect to the banners, I know we had spoken about amending the ordinance to permit them on a limited basis, kind of on Palisade or Angle, the busier streets in town, not the residential streets. In researching it, while you see these banners in many other towns, I looked at many of their ordinances, and quite frankly, their ordinances are pretty much the same as Englewood's, which only permit temporary banners really in conjunction with the opening of a new business. I think, frankly, those ordinances just get ignored and the banners go up on the utility poles. I did speak again to Mr. Slahetka about this, however, because one of the difficulties is once you do it for one, it's hard to say no to anybody else. Yes, you could limit the banners to 1 per utility pole. However, how do you choose who gets to put their banner up? And then are we getting into non-commercial speech or pure strict advertising? So again, that's another discussion I'd like to have and bring Mr. Slahetka in, because the municipality where he did it in the southern part of the state, which we're taking a look at. But I'd like to get some input from him, and perhaps we can include that when he comes to the next meeting as well.
Okay, sounds good to me. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, so I guess we'll move on to our communications from the mayor and council's portion of the meeting. Mayor Wiles.
Thank you, Charles. Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Thank you. Good evening. Busy week for the city of Englewood, and let me just look at my comments. Thank you. Just a brief note. Again, the county open space funds, as I understand, will be combined with city capital funding to undertake an extensive work in the McKay field in 2021. We're grateful for that. Also, Millennium Strategies, we want to thank the grant writer efforts that they're providing, not just the update on a regular basis, but robust funding from other sources that don't dip into taxpayers. Thank you to Flat Rock, who had a wonderful virtual gala on September 22nd, and to Assistant Director Esperanza Pacheco, selected by the Committee of American Library Association as one of 6 library workers nationally for a grant to attend the Young Adult Library Services Association conference. Special memoriams or remembrance, if we can, for retired Englewood firefighter Irving Jones Jr. He's been a firefighter in our department since September 2nd, 1980, and he retired on September 1st, 2010. He passed away on October 22nd. Condolences to his family. To George Horton, the first African-American president of the Rotary Club from 1988 to 1989. He passed away on October 7th. An industrial designer and a deacon at the First Baptist Church of Englewood. Again, condolences to his family. And as Mr. Willoughby indicated, condolences to his family and the entire family of Winter Renee Watts. Hundreds of people gathered at Crystal Lake for a candlelight vigil. Very sad and young loss for the community. A happy birthday to about 1,412 September registered voters, some October registered voters in Englewood. The census numbers were not as good, but not as bad as we intended. And to all those that are voting, please, again, remember there's a ballot drop box under view of camera, and make sure that you bring it there. Going to the polls will only result in a paper ballot and social distancing breaches. We urge you to make use of this, and special thank you to Yancy, to Catherine, to everybody that keep City Hall well-oiled in all these moving parts going forward. A brief COVID update. Again, the U.S. crossed 8.4 million infections, 223,000 deaths. A single-day record in the state of New Jersey was creeping up on us. And as the cases rise nationally, everybody here are urged again to wear a mask, socially distant, wash your hands. There is an app that notifies you of potential COVID-19 exposure. Maintaining your privacy and security, we urge you to go on that. Be assured that the council president, I, and a lot of other leaders deal weekly with health department general updates, the governor's new mandates, updating on holiday events that are being planned, and also reviewing the PPE acquisition and notes that we have to be aware of. I want to especially thank this week Soul Trading USA, who made some donations generally around Christmas time, but they came forward early. They gave Chef Dion, at my request, a $10,000 donation and $2,000 donation in masks, and also to Courtney Suffren in the Links program. There's been a huge food insecurity. Each of these wonderful community leaders were able to get, again, $10,000 checks and $2,000 worth of masks in order to do what they have. We also want to thank the Family Promise of Bergen County as they wrap up their work in our city for the tons of food and the extraordinary efforts that they made. For that kind of information and more, I have coffee with the mayor every Friday at 11 a.m. on the city's library's Facebook page. And there's a Zoom link if you want to participate actively, or my Facebook page. And I'll fill everybody in on the emails, the requests, the updates, and more information like that. I issued a statement already on the peaceful march that resulted in great discussion at the beginning of this meeting. I want you to know it was the 12th time that I went down to participate in a march, and this time it was in response to the rash of gun violence in Englewood. I was disheartened by the abrupt and premature end of the march, and I spent the evening, as many are aware, ensuring that civil rights and personal health and everything were protected. I thank the good Pastor Thompson for his efforts and leadership. It was a meaningful experience for me to pray witness. I won't be deterred despite a lot of the social media rhetoric. I will continue to walk and to join, as I consider these protests to be in the right peaceful spirit. And I appreciate also that the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office is stepping forward. This has to be thoroughly investigated by an independent authority. And all the other proactive measures that we talked about, the consistent use of body cameras, community engagement with our youth by our police, bias training, and de-escalation practices. In my opinion, this would not have happened if our chief, if our deputy chief, or Sergeant Martin were there. And I'm saying that because I've walked so many times, and the priority has to be how we lead, because our children are going to be watching how we do things and what we do. Ladies and gentlemen, when I was walking, there were 5 young children in bicycles wearing masks. And it was special for me to see them join us. And they were walking and driving in a great tradition, a tradition that John Lewis literally handed the baton to the next generation. And 1 or 2 blocks, I walked an hour and a half to get someplace for a 10-minute walk. And then I saw those kids veer off. That visual, those sounds, was unnecessary for them. And I will work to make sure that things increase. Thank you, Mr.
Glenn.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I also just want to comment on the events of Saturday evening. Watching the videos was very disheartening and disturbing. That said, there are videos. I was not there on the ground myself, but I want to thank Reverend Preston Thompson for meeting with me on Sunday, since he was on the ground, and he shared with me a lot of insights about our community and about things that he sees, that steps we can take to make our community stronger and to avoid these kinds of situations. And I also want to thank him for agreeing to have ongoing conversations on that topic. But one of the points he made to me was that it's important for the community to see elected officials there with them. And so I think there's going to be an event this coming Saturday at 1 p.m., which is an opportunity for those of us who can make that time to show ourselves and show the support we have for our community, which does not imply that we don't support our police as well. This is one event. We have many people in the police department, as the mayor pointed out, and let's be careful about judgments we make. Nevertheless, we all saw the videos. We need to take action. I'd also just like to note in passing that October is Domestic Violence Month, if you will, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And the Women's Legislative Bipartisan Caucus held a meeting on Zoom with several representatives in the state who can provide resources to anyone in that situation, especially with COVID. It's obviously much trickier, but we are fortunate that the state has the resources that they have. And I'll be sure to share these resources with our health department. They probably already know about them, but just I want to make sure for that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rosenberg.
Thank you so much. I am not going to repeat what everyone said. Go vote, please. That's an important takeaway tonight. And I just wanted to add my own sentiments. I really feel heartbroken for Englewood right now. There is, people are living in fear in our city. There's violence. There are people attacking from all sides, and I feel really just heartbroken for the way that that our residents are living right now. And I hope that we can all work harder to do better. I appreciate the city's leadership, and I am comforted to know that they take all of this seriously. I think it's a real credit to our police chief that he is doing everything that he can to make sure that residents are safe in their homes, on the streets. Their rights are safe, their constitutional rights are protected, and I thank him for that. And I just want to remind people that most people in the city, I mean, the protesters have been protesting week after week, the marchers, I guess, week after week. I was there. I walked with them, not enough, but I was. And everyone was preaching love and unity. And to think that it ended last week in such a violent way is really so shocking to me, because people are there for the opposite reason. They want to spread love. And I think that we can't overestimate the few people who really want to take away from that and divide people, because most of our city really wants the unity and love. So let's try to access that, because it's the only way we're going to get through this is together. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen. Mr. Cohen.
Might be having technical difficulties again.
Is he, Yancy?
I'm going to text him.
Because I don't want him to come say I won't let him talk, because that's what he'll say. Did you get a response? Because if not, Mr. Hamer.
Gladly.
I haven't heard back.
Go ahead, Mr. Hamer.
Thank you, Council President.
Yep.
First, a couple of items. November 3rd approaching, and I just want to make sure that everyone takes advantage of the right that's a vote. And if you haven't already cast your vote, please take advantage of the ballot box that's posted that's anchored in front of City Hall, so that you don't have to rely on the Postal Service. And please don't wait until Election Day to go to the polls and try to cast a paper ballot. You can turn in your ballots then, but for safety's sake and just good order's sake, please take advantage of the ballot boxes in front of City Hall, and not only cast your vote, but reach out to everyone you know. New Jersey, as we know, is a fairly blue state and has been that way, but many of us have relatives in purple or red colored states, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, Michigan. Reach out to people you know and do everything you can to make sure you spread the word and get people to the polls and get their votes cast as early as possible. I also want to pass on condolences to the Horton Jones family and Mr. Wilby, you and your family. There are it's a painful time for all of you, and their words aren't enough to comfort you. But condolences, please. With regard to an issue that was brought up, not necessarily at this meeting, many of you have driven through town, coming into town, you see green and black and white signs that say Englewood proud to be stigma free. That stigma refers to, someone sent me an email asking about it. The stigma refers to destigmatizing mental health issues, and where, if at all possible, there are resources available for people who have challenges. There's resources available for family members who are trying to help friends and loved ones and neighbors, deal with some of the challenges that mental health issues present. And please take advantage of them. The effort started a few years ago, and it's starting to grow, and it needs to continue. That message, that information needs to be passed around, needs to be gotten, needs to be passed around, and people need to take advantage of the resources that are available. The last comment I want to make is relative to the violence that has taken place, the shootings that have taken place, and the march that took place on Saturday. All of those things aren't the same type of activity, and I have total faith and confidence in Police Chief Suffren and Deputy Chief Halstead and the men and women in our police force. But there is no way imaginable that that kind of activity is warranted in Englewood. There's no place for it here. We don't deserve that. Tensions are running high and have run high. There are racial issues that need to be brought to the table and need to have a full-throated discussion. Marching solves some issues, but at some point very soon, we need to sit down and start looking at putting a plan together and a means to solve some of the concerns and the issues that we all have or have seen, and some of us haven't seen, which is just as problematic. So we need to come up with a plan so that maybe the marches don't have to occur, and certainly not as frequently as they've been. Because Englewood has a lot to offer, and there are a lot of needs, and we need to come together and have serious dialogue about how we resolve some of those things. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen.
Hi, with the hour late, I'll be brief. Just want to reiterate what everybody else was saying about Election Day. Obviously, this is a critical election, and it's also one of the most difficult in terms of what people have to adjust to in terms of how to vote and the different variations of paper ballot, etc. But it's more critical than ever to make sure that our voices are heard, and just everybody. I encourage everybody to make sure they come out and vote. I know that I've had folks, call me over the last couple of days with issues where, where they didn't get their ballot yet, or all kinds of other problems that they're still having. Anybody having those problems, you should, reach out to any one of us. We can try to be of assistance. Those are issues which hopefully, there is still time to fix when necessary, and we've been able to fix a lot. I mean, I know I've been able to fix a few of them over the last couple of days. So, let's just make sure that our turnout is up and our voices are heard. I would say hearing what everybody said regarding what happened last Saturday. I don't want to repeat what others have said, but I want to say quickly though that I had the pleasure of attending the last week's NAACP meeting, and Jeff Carter ended up having an agenda to talk about some of the activities that the NAACP had been taking over the last couple of weeks and months, and hearing about just the incredible amount of work, the incredible amount of ability to have voices heard, and the effects of therein, was not just commendable but so critical. And I think it's important that when we see things like this in our town, like we've had tonight, we allow our voices to continue to be heard. We make sure that we want this town to be able to be a place that we can all be proud of in all facets. And we obviously have some work to do. I think we're all saying the same thing in that regard, and that we're all going to be there working together and hopefully working to correct the things that we've been seeing in our town recently. So I look forward to any partnership and collaboration on those fronts. It's important for the future of our city. Thank you.
I just got a few points. One is, as we know, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I want to lift that up. I want to send my condolences to the Jones, the Watts, and the Horton family, the passing of their loved ones. I just think that the actions or the activity that's taken place in the last 6 to 7 days, I'm not going to, as somebody who's born and raised here in Englewood, let this define our community. Englewood is a very resilient community with a lot of resilient people. They grab themselves by the bootstraps, work hard, and this is not going to determine who we are, define who we are, and we will continue to move forward in a direction of improvement. It's easy for people to talk about it, but we have to put the work in, and have people understand what this means to us and what our community is. So we're not going to let this define us. We're going to work together to make sure that solutions are coming out. I'm glad the chief said that the prosecutor is involved in this action. So we get an independent voice in that. We'll be very transparent to the public because they deserve to hear to hear what's going on. So it's important that we stay in tune to what's going on and what's happening. The naysayers, and you always are going to have people with negative comments about other people. People are entitled to their own comments, but I think it's very easy to criticize people, but it's hard to try to do the work that those people are doing and understand that the work that they're doing. I just would say that was very unfortunate what happened. That should have never, ever, ever happened. Never happened. And I hope that it never happens again. We need to learn from this, and whatever issues or findings come out of it, we need to address those findings as soon as possible. I have confidence in the chief and the deputy chief. They will get their arms around this thing, and they will keep us informed of what we have to do, and whatever resources that we need to provide them. We should be prepared as a governing body to hear those conversations and provide those resources if they deem necessary. And that's what we need to do. We will be transitioning to a new city manager. We need to get her to buy into what we're doing here and understand in this community. I've been here long enough to know and seen actions like this before. That's what happens when you're born and raised somewhere. But we've always come through it. So I expect to come through it again, like the shining light that we are in this town. And I have confidence that we will do that. And also I want to talk about the folks that participate on the weekly COVID call and the work that they have put forth on it, and the dedication to those individuals. We couldn't be more proud of the health department and Jim Federico and his team. And they were out there, they did the flu shots this past Saturday. I didn't get the numbers. Maybe Jewel has the numbers when she speaks. I didn't get the numbers, but I know that when I was there was a lot of people coming. It's excitement, and the offerings from our health department is second to none anywhere in the state, I believe. So we do have some good things going on in Englewood, and we need to uplift those things and put those things out front. And, you know, people need to have the right to feel good about themselves in town and speak up. So let's just move on from this, deal with it, and let's bring better days to Englewood. Joel?
Thank you. Let me just say first, it's nice to see you all. We've been talking and emailing, but it's very nice to see you all in person, more or less. In addition to our normal responsibilities and service delivery, we do have several what I consider extra activities that we're also dealing with. I want to thank the council president for recognizing the group, the COVID leadership group. It is a very dedicated group, and I also echo his comments about the health department and about Jim Federico. He's one of the best health officers I've ever worked with. But I also have to say, during my time here, I'm getting maximum cooperation from all of the department heads, and I truly appreciate it. It makes my job a whole lot easier. In addition to our routine and normal activities, we're also focused right now on the preparing a draft budget for 2021. It will not be finalized prior to the transition, but it will be in very, very good shape for the new city manager to take over the reins in conjunction with the council and the chief financial officer and the finance committee. We are at a point where basically everything that we do now has this additional component of public health and safety. So everything that we do has to be viewed through the lens of, unfortunately, of the health emergency. And it does lead to some things that are, you know, a little disappointing. We were thrilled to have the ice rink reopen. The restrictions are in place, but there's still, I think, a lot of enjoyment and sports activity and sportsmanship to be enjoyed and gained this season. We have, as you know, had to cancel the prospective holiday traditional celebrations that we have, which are geared to attracting large crowds of people, which is the opposite of what we need to do these days. So we do want to make sure that we still put on the decorations. We still want to bring a sense of cheer and goodwill and beauty to the city for the holiday season, even though we have to discourage the activities that traditionally attract large crowds. We're also working on the transition towards a new city manager taking over. We'll make that transition as smooth and as seamless as possible. We are also looking ahead to hopefully next year, possibly a vaccine and the ability to reopen to a greater extent than we currently are. So I am beginning to gather information on reopening policies. Some of them are geared specifically to personnel issues, and some of them are geared to how to reopen our community at large. Basically, the feeling is that even after we get past the worst of the pandemic and wellness becomes hopefully the norm again, some of the activities, some of the patterns, some of the trends that have been established during this period will never go away, and that our we're going to find that our lifestyles, our way of working, our way of transporting, our way of shopping, everything is going to change to a certain extent, even as we come out of this phase. So there are materials available to assist communities in reopening, and I am gathering those materials, and they will be available for the new city manager. We're also continuing our efforts to improve communication. We plan to make some updates and upgrades to the city's website. But in the meantime, we're being very diligent about the information. There is election information for people to find their polling places and drop-off places for mail-in ballots. We have added the list that was requested by the mayor and council of all of the city's parks, and which are currently open and which are currently closed. And that is listed on the city's website under the Department of Recreation. We have it as a separate page so that it's very clear, very visible, and we will be updating it on a regular basis. We've also added an extensive amount of information and hyperlinks and directories related to social services, since a lot of social services activities and needs have arisen during this period as well. When you look at the homepage for the website, you will now see, instead of Swift 911, you will now see a portal to access Englewood alerts. And this is part of the new citywide communication system that we've installed. We've used it on several occasions now. We try to use it primarily for serious emergencies. And but this will allow us to basically communicate with the community beyond just Facebook, beyond just Nixle. We are constantly looking at ways to improve and expand our capability in that area. I think those are the main things I would just like to convey, and I'll continue to provide weekly updates, and I will be working up in conjunction with Greg Ferenbach a detailed listing and inventory of the activities and the priorities, so that this will help in the council with its goal setting for the coming year, and for integrating and interacting with the new city manager. So we're laying the groundwork for a new year. And I can't believe I'm working on my third budget for Englewood.
Wow.
But
Wow.
it's a pleasure.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yes, it does. So thank you all very much.
Well, Jewel doesn't usually attend these meetings with us because Greg does, and she's sitting in there for him. So I don't know how many more meetings they will have with us, but hopefully she'll come back and attend one more before she leaves.
I will.
So we could say goodbye to Jewel, but thank you for your efforts. Before we go into closed session, before I ask Mr. Bailey to take us there, I want to just remind everybody what everybody else said, to remind the public, please go out and vote. We have that ballot box there for you to use. So please use that, and encourage others to do that as well. It's your right. Mr. Bailey, it's your honor to take us into closed session.
Yes, sir. Be it resolved by the governing body of the city of Englewood that a meeting closed session pursuant to subsection 6, which is dealing with tactics and techniques designed to protect the public, where if it was disclosed, it could impair that ability to do that. Subsection 7, dealing with litigation and matters within the attorney-client privilege, and subsection 8, dealing with appointments. And be it further resolved that the discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public upon taking final action thereon, provided it does not constitute an undue invasion of privacy or violate the attorney-client privilege. And be it further resolved that although the council will return to open session at the conclusion of the closed session, it is not anticipated that any action would be taken at that time.
Mr. Bailey, hold on one second. Can I ask Yancy a question?
Sure.
Yancy, was there something you were supposed to say, or did you say it earlier?
I was just wanted to give a quick briefing on the upcoming election, but everybody covered everything.
Okay, just want to make sure. Sorry about that, Mr. Bailey. You
No,
can
it's okay.
finish your thing.
I just need a motion and a second and a.
So moved.
We need a sec. I'll second it. Oh, Ms. Rosenberg seconded. We'll give her the honor. All of
The roll call,
roll call, please.
or all in, I'm sorry, all in favor.
Either way.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, we're in closed session now.
Switch to the other meeting.
You have to go to the other meeting that Yancy sent us to. Did you send it today? Was it today?
I sent it this afternoon.
Yeah, she sent it this afternoon. See you on the other side. folks.
Different link, right, Nancy?
Yes.
All right.
Good night, all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Take care, friends.
Chief, did I send that to you?
Hey, Yancy,
Yes, you did. Now,
Good.
does it have a passcode? I just see a meeting number.
I don't remember if I set it up for waiting room or passcode. Probably you can just jump on and it'll take you to, you just have to wait for me to let everybody in.
Okay.
Chief, are you on?
Yeah, I have to go back to my email and get the link.
I did email it to you. I couldn't remember if I did.
Yes, you did.
I did. Okay. All right, good. I just need everybody to leave this meeting so that I can, otherwise it's going to ask me to set you up as one of the hosts.